A More Beautiful Question by Warren Berger explains the importance of questioning. Last week, I sat down and did a question quickfire and wrote down questions related to my practice of teaching. This picture shows the original set of questions that I had written down, and I found that I had way more questions than I had time for, so I was actually pretty excited this week to go back and look at them and develop a few more questions. Berger specifically categorizes questions into why, what if, and how, so that was the first step I took, and then I added some more questions to them. So the why, the what if, and the how. My why questions, they were kind of all over the place, but this helped me develop another question, which was why isn't education as social as most other aspects of life? The what ifs, I don't have very many of those. This kind of brought to my attention that maybe I should be asking more what if questions because I only had 3. I also have a few how questions. I took my own categories and then did a little brainstorming to see where my Post-its fit. So my first category was project-based learning. My second category is student behaviors, and my third category is teacher development. So project-based learning is something that I'm currently involved in, and that is important to me in my own practice, so that's why I used it as a category. My second category was student behaviors, things like, well, adding flexible seating, promote collaboration and student engagement. And the third category was teacher development. So this was more, I reflected on myself and teacher practices.
Then I went back and categorized my questions in a different way. I really looked at what the questions focused on. So the first category here is student-centered questions. These focus more on the solution being focused on what students are going to be able to do. The next section I categorized them in is teacher-centered. So these were questions I had that really focus on what myself as a teacher or what other teachers should or could do. And my third category was the system-centered. So these are things that aren't necessarily in a student or a teacher's capabilities to solve, but these are more questions that have to do with the educational system as a whole.
I chose 3 questions that were interesting and that I felt are important. The first is, why isn't education as social as most other aspects of life? Things like talking on the phone, eating, playing. My second question is, why can't students be involved in the project planning process? This has more to do with student voice and choice and getting them involved in their education. And the third question is, if teachers have so many standards to cover, why aren't they combining them the way that businesses, scientists, and other professionals do? I feel like in the quote-unquote real world, people do not break things down into different subjects. They tackle it all together. So now what? My vision is to keep coming back to these questions and seeing if I can develop them further and make them more actionable than they are. I'm hoping to reach out to my personal learning network and to build that network and add more people to it. See if I can find research that will help me ask my peers, my colleagues, and then also when the school year starts, ask students how they feel about all of this as well. So I'm excited to keep building my questions and looking at this problem more closely.